Okay, we're ready. So you can all start off lying down. And yeah, you can have your legs long or knees bent. So the ethos of having your knees bent is to help your lower back. So if you've got any discomfort in your lower back, then bend your knees. Anything at all. Even if you can just hear your lower back. And then take a couple of bigger than usual breaths in and sigh the breath out. And as you're sighing the breath out, feel your body resting heavy on the ground. So you feel the breath coming in because you're taking a bigger breath. You feel the ribs moving more, maybe the belly, maybe you feel some lift in your collarbones towards your face. And as you breathe out, you sense where you're in contact with the ground. And give your weight there as fully as you can. Do what you can to soften the features of your face. So smooth out any wrinkles in your forehead. Think about space growing between your eyebrows, softening around your eyes, cheeks, jaw. Morning. Oh, thanks for reminding me, actually. In terms of me being able to give you the best advice, tips, if you tilt your camera so that I can see your mat, that's really useful, if that's possible. I know for some people that isn't possible. And then I'd like you to, oh, that's great. Thank you. I'd like you to place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. So I say chest, somewhere where there's ribs or breastbone. Yeah, so it's the bony bit of your torso, and then one hand in the fleshy bit. So it might be more to the waist than the center. Somewhere where you can rest your elbows on the floor so your shoulders can be easy. And feel the weight, the warmth perhaps of your hands. Allow the hands to really arrive on the body. So allow the palms to be fleshy. So it's a two-way relationship. The hands are receiving the body, but the body is also receiving the hands. I mean, obviously, it's all part of the same body, but there can be that kind of self-care, self-relationship perspective. And then start to take an interest in what you feel in those two hands. Do you feel anything? Maybe you feel something in one hand, not so much the other. You don't need to change your breath, just noticing. And then I would like you to alter your breath and see if you can send the breath predominantly into the abdomen, into the hand on the belly. So as much as possible, keeping the ribs quiet and feeling the belly fill out as you breathe in. So the belly will need to be relaxed in order for you to sense this. And just sense where the movement is. Is it in the middle of the belly, coming forwards like around the belly button? Is it more to the sides? Is it more to one side than the other? What about your lower back, the back of the body? Is there any movement there as you breathe? Good. So one more breath like this, and then just switch to normal breathing. So you're not directing the breath anywhere. And then I want you to breathe into the ribs. So try and keep the belly quiet and think about lifting the front chest, expanding the side ribs, the back ribs moving into the floor. So it should feel quite different. And don't worry, if you've never done anything like this before and you're thinking, how on earth do I do that? That's very normal. And it doesn't matter if you're breathing into the ribs or breathing into the belly or breathing into both. Your attention is on the ribs at the moment. And your intention is to just explore and play with this. So be really light with it. How might I be able to direct the breath more into the ribs and less into the belly? And it might just be you keep your attention there, because I don't want you to struggle and strain and create stress, obviously. Great. And then I want you to alternate between these two. So you take one breath into the ribs, exhale, and your next breath into the belly. So you're inviting the diaphragm and all the other muscles involved in the breath to move slightly differently from one breath to the next. So we're purposefully not breathing in our habitual way, or exploring breathing in a different way. And it can be a big difference. You could take big breaths and make the chest expand a lot and the belly really lift, or it can be a very small difference. And it might be that both the belly and chest are moving, but you feel an exaggeration in the belly or an exaggeration in the ribs. Just laughing at the cat joining in. Great. And then stop and return to normal breathing. But keep your hands on the belly. In fact, before we do the next bit, just fold your knees in and give them a hug. So you start to just open up the back of the body. That's it. Give your legs a hug. Yeah, if you want to rock a little bit, you can do that. Roll. Great. And then come back to where you were, feet on the floor, one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly. And bring your focus into your feet. Now, as you exhale, I want you to press the feet and feel that the belly can drop back more towards the spine. Yeah. And your lower back, the back of your waist, moves more towards the floor. And as you inhale, unpress the feet and allow your pelvis to roll the other way. So your pelvis is rocking, if it were a bowl. As you exhale, the bowl is tilting towards your face. As you inhale, the bowl is tilting more towards your feet. But the pelvis stays on the floor. But you're rolling through the back of the pelvis, using or not using the effort in the legs. Yeah? So when you're breathing in, you can really lighten the contact of the feet on the floor to encourage that arching of the lower back away from the ground. And can you sense, because you've still got your hands there, I mean, you can probably feel a response in the hand on the belly, that the belly is changing. But what about the breastbone, the ribs? Are they also involved? Could they be involved? So as you exhale, could you sense that both hands are moving towards each other? And as you inhale, they're moving away from each other. Really heavy through your head and shoulders, back ribs. Great. And then stop. And this time, lift your fingers up towards the ceiling, so out in front of you. So reach your arms up towards the ceiling, good. And do a little, so you've got your elbows off the floor. Do a little bit of reaching and dropping. So you're reaching towards the ceiling, feel the shoulders come off the floor. And then you do the opposite. Feel the shoulders rest heavy on the floor. You're exploring the sliding movement of your shoulder blades, the freedom of the shoulders, the possibilities that are there. Good. And then you're going to give yourselves a hug, and give yourself a hug with the left arm on top. So, very Buddha-field thing to do. Give yourself a hug. We can't hug each other. And when you give yourself a hug, your hands will either be around your upper arms or maybe beyond that, sort of on the side ribs. And let your elbows drop away from your face without pushing. Sense the movement in the back of your body between your fingers. And then in a small way, and you can use your hands on your body to help pull one side and then the other side away from the floor. You're going to keep your pelvis and legs where they are, but start to rock your rib cage on the ground. And your head might move as well. So you pull one side of the ribs away from the floor, resting to the opposite, and then go the other way. Keep breathing. You'll probably find that one way is much easier than the other. Be normal. Don't push against any resistance. Just stay within what feels sustainable. Good. And then the next time you pass through the middle, pause. Let the arms float up again. Let the shoulder blades rest heavy. Can you have your arms in such a place that it feels really effortless to keep them here? And then hug yourself with the opposite arm, the right arm on top. Again, try and keep the distance between the shoulders and the ears the same. Let the elbows be heavy. Breathe in between your fingers in the back of your body. As you exhale, let your elbows drop even further away from your face. And then again, your little rocks from side to side, using the hands to help. Resting into the side of your back that you're leaning into. Really rest there. Give your weight where you can. So keep your pelvis and your legs quiet. So you're differentiating between moving the upper body and the lower body. Lovely. So it's a rotation. Good. And then once more releasing, bringing your hands up towards the ceiling. Do a little bit of that reaching and dropping. So you're really sensing the shoulder blades on the ground. Lovely. And then bring yourselves all the way over onto your hands and knees. So the movement of the pelvis we were doing using the legs, I want you to see if you can find that on its own. So if I come sideways on, that might be easier for you to see. So you're seeing if you can keep quiet through the shoulders. So you've just explored pushing and unpushing with the shoulders. So you'll have some sense of whether you're doing that or not. Try and keep quiet through the shoulders as you roll the pelvis over the tops of the thighs. So the tailbone will start to point towards the floor. You feel a lengthening in the lower back and a tightening, a shortening in the belly. And then you undo the effort in the belly and allow the pelvis to roll the other way. And your lower back will probably dip down towards the floor. You're just focusing on the movement of the pelvis, trying not to involve the upper body. So your eyes will stay facing in the same place, looking at the same place. Great, and then keep the pelvis quiet where it feels long in the lower back, not overly long, so you're not overly working in the belly. And then see if you can find the same movement with the upper body. And you could lift and lower your head as well, but you're trying to just notice that you're keeping the pelvis quiet, but the ribs, shoulders, upper spine, neck and head are changing their position, and they're changing the effort through the arms. And then once you've had a little play with this, you can go ahead and bring it all together. But when you bring it all together, could you ensure that the curves that you're creating, the flexion and extension curves, are spread evenly throughout the spine, from your tailbone to your head? So you're not overly doing it through the shoulders when you're arching up away from the floor. You might need to ease off in the arms, ask more of the belly. And similarly, when you're allowing your belly to drop towards the floor, could you ease off that a little bit, but encourage the shoulder blades to slide more towards each other and the upper back to drop towards the ground. And your head is supported by the whole movement of the spine. So you're not hinging at the neck. You're thinking about your neck starting way down between your shoulder blades. So cat pose or cat cow. Good. And then bring yourself back into kneeling. Take the weight off your hands. And to help your wrists ease out, you could bring the backs of your hands together and just swing them. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Breathe. Sit into your seat. Good. And then bring the hands down. Come back onto all fours again. So I'm assuming your wrists are okay. If they're not okay on all fours, there's a couple of things you can do. You can creep your hands slightly further forward so that that angle there isn't quite as small. It makes the angle bigger. You can come onto your fists. You can use wedges, cushions or books on the heel of your hand. Or you can come down onto your elbows. That's another thing you can do if your wrists get tired. But see how you go. Okay, so back on our hands and knees. And you're going to just explore the movement of the shoulders, but keep your eyes pointing at the same place on your mat. So you're looking down at your mat, pushing and unpushing with the arms. And see if you can stop where you feel the longest, the flattest, the most neutral. And then tuck your toes under, and just take your bottom back towards your heels. So you'll feel that you're folding through the base of your big toe. So that might be a shock for you this morning. And then come forwards again. So you're just taking your bottom as far back as your feet and ankles and knees allow. You're still keeping that length through the spine. Okay. And the next time you come forwards, drop your head without pushing with your arms. So you drop your head, so your head's just hanging. Just see how much you can let your head hang. Maybe you can nod it. Maybe it's just as stiff as you like. Mine's quite stiff this morning. You're really trying to let the weight of the head along with gravity to lengthen the neck. And then do the same thing. Your arms stay straight. You swing your bottom back towards your heels. Keep your head hanging. Head stays heavy. Resting through the hands. Supported by the bones, the bony structure of the body, the arms. And then the next time you go back towards your heels, you're going to see, could I rest through the arms and take my knees off the floor without pushing myself up? So could I pick one knee up, pick the other knee up? So I'm still not pushing with the arms. Maybe the answer to that question is no, Amber, I can't do that. And if that is your answer, you could bring your hands a bit closer to your knees. So you're creating and you have much more support through these pillars, and then maybe you could pick your knees up. Keep your head heavy. And then you're going to use your strong leg muscles to lift the pelvis up and back into your version, your height of downward facing dog. So you're resting through the arms, your head stays heavy, and it's your legs that are pulling the pelvis up and back. You keep your knees as soft as you need to. Good. Come back down and come back up 2 or 3 more times in that way. So you're exploring how you can really find your support through your bones, and therefore you don't need to push with your muscles. Because if you push with your arms, you start to brace a little bit. It restricts your breathing slightly. It restricts the availability of movement for the shoulders. And you've got these strong legs here, which we can build the muscle up to lift the body off the ground. At any point, I should have said this at the beginning, if at any point you've had enough and you want to have a rest, then please do. Yeah, so if I see you resting, I will be happy rather than disappointed. Great, nice to see you all keeping your heads heavy. You don't need to lift your head at any point. It's hanging when you're in dog pose. It hangs on the way down. It hangs when you're on your hands and knees. So once you've explored 3 or maybe 4 transitions from all fours to dog and back again, come into child pose. So resting over your knees, you can rest your head either on the floor or on your hands. And in your child pose, send the breath way down the back. Feel the lower back ribs move as you breathe. Can you sense your lower back responding to the breath? Great. Bring yourselves up to kneeling. If you're not comfortable kneeling, then you can sit in a different fashion, but because I want you to be able to concentrate on what I'm doing. Just wondering how I'm. So I want you to watch what we're going to do next. We're going to do a little sequence. So you'll start off towards the back of your mat, in that neutral place where you feel flat across the back from the crown to the tailbone. Tuck your toes under. So you'll inhale here, and then as you exhale, you're going to push the floor away, pull the belly back towards the spine, round through the back, and then inhale again, exaggerating. So as you're inhaling, you're really sending the breath into the back of the body. On an exhale, keep that roundness in the back, that gatheredness in the front, send your bottom back towards your heels. And then on an inhalation, you're still trying to stay rounded, but you're going to creep the hands forwards, head stays heavy. And then on an exhale, you come up, you're still trying to stay rounded and flexed. I'm still thinking about bringing the head and the pubis towards each other. But as I'm sending the pelvis forwards, it will come to a point where I can no longer feel flexed, but I just let the pelvis hang. And this is where you monitor how far you go. So if your lower back starts to twitch, don't go any further. But if you're able to just let the buttocks relax, just let the pelvis hang, you keep looking down with your head. That will help your lower back. Let the pelvis come to wherever it wants to come to. And then the last thing that you do on an exhalation, thinking about the upper back, you're going to lift the head on an exhalation and thinking about lifting the head from between the shoulder blades, from the upper back. Okay? And if you're okay to stay here for a bit longer, which you might not be, you can try that a few times because it's quite interesting to notice the relationship between the head and the pelvis, and the front hip, and what you're doing with the head. When you do want to come out, you've got a couple of options. You can drop your head, tuck your toes, and come into a much longer dog pose than you were in. Or you can just push all the way back, come into child. And then we'll do it again. Okay, so I'll talk you through it. Onto your hands and knees, and just make sure you're not right. You've got your feet towards the back of your mat. So you've got your mat out in front of you. So find a neutral place for your back to start with. Yes, you feel long. Hands underneath your shoulders to start. Good. So inhale here. As you exhale, gather the front of the body back towards the spine. Drop your head. So you come into that flex position. Inhale here, flex even more. So send the breath into the back of the body. Keep the belly coming back. As you exhale, send your bottom back towards your heels, but keep rounding through the back, gathering through the front. Inhale, creep the hands forwards. So you're making a wider distance between the hands and the knees. And then on an exhalation, just think about sending the pelvis forwards. Let the bottom go as much as you can, soften the lower back, just going as far as is comfortable for you. Keep the head heavy, keep the head heavy. Don't look up. Don't look up. And then if you come into the upward facing dog or cobra, depending on what you're doing with your legs, on an exhalation, you lift the head from between the shoulder blades. That's it. So as you lift the head, the upper back can come forwards and maybe the pelvis can drop. And like I said, if you've got the stamina to stay there, or the willingness to stay there a bit longer, you could just explore that, dropping the head and lifting the head and noticing the relationship between the head and the pelvis. Breathing, good. So you're supporting yourself through the shoulders, but not excessively. There's movement available. Great. And then when you want to come out, you can either tuck the back toes under and push up into a long dog pose, or just push all the way back into child, both of which will lengthen the back. Great. And then come back onto all fours and let's try that again. Okay, so you start off neutral. Inhale, do nothing. Exhale, scoop the belly back, drop the tailbone, drop your head, pressing through the arms. Inhale, exaggerate that curve. Exhale, drop your bottom towards your heels, stay rounded through the back, heavy in the head. Inhale, creep the hands forwards without losing that roundness. And then keep your head heavy as on an exhalation. Keep the head heavy so you're still dropping the crown towards the floor. Good. Untuck the toes at some point if that's helpful. But you're still thinking about flexing with the pelvis. You flex with the pelvis as in you drop the tailbone for as long as you can. You get to a point where you can't do that. And then the last thing you do, remember, is lift the head on an exhalation. Noticing that relationship between head and pelvis, front hip. Remember, you can drop and lift the head a few times, really trying to access the connection between the upper back and the head. And in fact, the whole spine. So it's not just the upper back and the head. Of course, you'll sense that the pelvis is changing and therefore the lower back will slightly change. Come out when you're ready. And then if you'd like to, I'll invite you to try that once more, but in your own time without my instruction. If you're thinking, too early to think without instruction, don't worry. You don't have to do it exactly with the breath. It's just the things to remember is you stay flexed until right at the end. So you're always thinking about flexing, head towards pubis, belly towards spine, until right at the end. And just make sure you are breathing. Great. So don't look up too far. You don't want to feel short in the back of the neck. Good. And then when you've had enough, let's all come back into child pose. How heavy can you let your shoulders be now? Can they really drop towards the floor? Helping your back to round. That's it. So if it's comfortable for you, if you're not using your hands to rest your head on, could you take your hands down by your sides with your palms facing up? Great. Come back onto all fours. Tuck your toes under again. Drop your head. And we're going to come through downward facing dog. Resting through the arms again, using the legs to lift the pelvis. Through downward facing dog. Into a standing forward bend. So then you then walk the hands back. Let the heels drop. So in your standing forward bend, you're folded over your legs. And you can either just hang, or you can hold your elbows, or you could rest your elbows on your thighs. But you let your head drop wherever you are. Your head's dropping. And you've got the weight in your heels so that you can really feel a sense of length in the lower back. Good, let the head go. And then slowly unravel into standing, bringing your head up last, like a fern leaf uncurling and your head being the tip of the leaf. Lovely. So just feel your upright, the support from your skeleton, the bones. Let the shoulders just hang like a cloak over your ribs. And then we're going to start to shift the weight from left to right on the feet. Great. And then settle where you feel like the weight is shared evenly between the 2 feet. And then start to slide your right hand down your thigh and follow the shoulder with the ear. Yeah, so you're coming into a side bend. And then shift the weight on your feet. And see if you can sense, with the weight in which foot, does it make it easier for me to slide the hand down the leg? Is it the leg, the same leg that I'm sliding down, or is it the other leg? Just explore that. And then bring yourself back up. Settle the weight into both your feet again. And try the same on the other side. So you slide the left hand down the outside of the left thigh. Shift the weight. Sensing, what makes it easier for me to slide the hands down? Good, and then coming back up to the middle. We're going to try that again, and we've got an option of raising the top arm. Okay, so if you go back down the right side, you can either keep your left arm hanging, or you could lift that left arm up and take it over. So you're creating a little bit more length on the top side of the body, and then shift the weight again. So when we explore different options with attention, we start to notice what feels most helpful. The nervous system learns. The nervous system is much cleverer than our thinking brain. It just senses into what's the most helpful way of moving. Good. And then you can come back up. Try the same on the other side, sliding left hand down, minding your lampshades. So with your top arm, if you have lifted that top arm, have a sense of reaching through the arm if you can. Reaching. Great. And then come back to your middle. Good. And then we're going to shift the weight again from left to right. And this time, when the weight drops through your right foot, you're going to lift the left heel. Yeah, so you're resting your weight through your right foot and leg, got your left heel off the floor. And then by all means, stand by a wall or some furniture if you need to. You're going to scoot your left foot towards your right so that the sole of your left foot is facing your right inner ankle. And then with your toes and the sole of your foot, just trace the outline. Try and keep the sole facing the foot of your lower leg. So you're tracing the outline of that foot. Good. When you come to this place where you've crossed the leg over, could you bend your right knee and cross your left knee over your right. So drop your tailbone, and then maybe with your right arm on top, you could give yourself a hug if you're not using your arms to stop you from falling over. And you could either keep your arms like this or bring your hands towards each other. Breathing, belly towards the spine, heavy in the sit bones. Good, so come out before you fall out, so you can come out with grace and control, ideally. Unravel the arms, unravel the legs, and then enjoy that weight shift again. Good. Settle the weight into the other leg, which I think is your left leg. Bend the right knee. Scoot the right foot towards the inner ankle. So it's like you're doing a mini tree pose. But then you're going to trace the outline of your standing foot. So because you're just standing through one foot, balancing on one foot, you'll have to keep making little changes. Your proprioception will have to enhance itself. And because you're feeling the outside edges of the foot with the other foot, again, you're waking up all these little nerve endings, getting more of a sense of your ground, your stance. So it should help you balance doing this. Okay, so when you've crossed the foot over, could you bend the standing knee and maybe rest the right thigh on the left thigh? Think about dropping the tailbone so that you're not dipping in the lower back, but you feel long in the lower back. And then again, so the opposite arm to the top leg on top, give yourself a hug. Breathing, shoulders relaxed. And then again, you could stay as you are, or you could bring the hands towards each other. You can even drop your chin a little bit. Keep breathing. Sense the edges of your standing foot. Great. With grace and control, you can come out, hopefully. Good. And then shift the weight again. Settle the weight between your 2 feet. And then I'd like you to take your feet wider. So at least as wide as your outer hips, maybe even a bit wider. And give yourself a hug. Let's do the right arm on top. Give yourself a hug like this. And then, as I said before, you can either keep your hands where they are, or you can bring your hands towards each other. And then you're going to soften the knees. Might stand sideways on. Soften the knees, drop your chin towards the chest, and then keeping your arms as they are, fold forwards into a forward bend. And when you're in your forward bend, you just let the arms hang. So gravity is helping pull the arms towards the floor, but you're not unraveling the hands. Weight still in the heels. Head heavy. Maybe you could swing your arms here a bit. And then you can either stay as you are or come back up, or you could turn your heels slightly inwards, so your feet are turned outwards, and then bend your knees and come into a squat. An option for you. Keeping the arms as they are. Head heavy. Your arms are hanging towards the floor. At any point you need to unravel the arms if the shoulders haven't had enough, then do so. In your squat, can you rest into your heels? And then from your squat, push back up into your forward bend. Bring your feet more parallel. And then you can release the arms, just let them hang. Good. And then either walk the hands up the front of the body or just let the arms hang as you come back into your upright. Lovely. Okay, so let's try the other side. So nice big cuddle with the left arm on top. Feet wide. And then either keeping your arms hugged like this, or if you want to come towards the eagle arm place where you bring the hands towards each other. And you might just be here, you might be here, you might have one hand on the wrist, you might have your palms touching, doesn't matter. Sense how this widens the shoulders, opens the upper back. And then drop your chin towards your chest, soften your knees, let your arms drop towards the floor. And as much as possible, allow gravity to take your arms. As much as possible, give your weight to gravity. Rest into your heels. Remember, you can swing your arms with your head as well here. Good. So we've got these options. You can stay as you are, you can come out. You could try turning your heels towards each other and coming down into a squat. Let your arms really drop. I say rest the weight into heels in your squat. It looks like a lot of you can actually get your heels on the ground, which is unusual in a class. So if you have got your heels on the ground, you can rest the weight into heels. Obviously, if your heels aren't down, you're not going to be able to rest the weight into your heels. That's fine. But let your head go. Let your arms go. Good. And then come back into your forward bend. Bring your feet more parallel. Let your arms go now. Let your arms go. And then here, you can walk your hands forwards and come into downward facing dog. So it might be a wider legged downward facing dog. That can be interesting to explore. Let the head be heavy. And then when you're ready, bring the knees down, coming back into your child pose. Feeling the breath in the back of your body. Good. And then bring yourselves over to lie on your back again. With your knees bent. Yeah, if you want to put something warmer on now, we're quietening down. So if you do feel like you need another layer or a blanket, that's fine. And just cross one leg over the other leg like that. That's it. Cross one leg over the other, Kenny Everett style. And then just shift the weight across the standing foot from left to right. So you get a small rotation, also a slight lengthening of the outsides of your thighs and hips. It doesn't have to be too big. I don't want you to have to hold yourself against gravity, brace in any way. Shifting from left to right. Good. And then change the cross of your legs. Do the same on the other side. Breathing easy, heavy through the head, ribs and shoulders. Good. And then see if you're comfortable to lie with your legs long. If not, have your knees bent. Follow the journey of your breath now. So from the beginning of the in-breath to the top of the in-breath, beginning of the out-breath to the end of the out-breath. And any spaces in between the inhale and the exhale. And then we're just going to lengthen the inhalation by adding some pauses along the journey. So we're going to interrupt the flow of our in-breath. Now, it's up to you how long you rest in those pauses. But we're going to try and add 2 pauses to the journey of the in-breath. So when you're ready, after your next exhalation, you're going to breathe in a little bit and pause. Really rest in that pause. Breathe in a little bit more. Pause again. And then breathe in all the way to the top of the breath. Soften to let the breath in. And then easy, smooth, flowing exhale. And then when you're ready, breathing in a little bit and pause. A little bit more. Pause. All the way to the top of your inhalation. Allow the breath to open the body rather than you trying to push the breath anywhere. And then easy, smooth exhale. Inhale, pause. Inhale more, pause. Inhale to the top of your breath. Maybe pause there, maybe you just want to go straight into the exhale. So don't worry if you're working at a completely different pace to me. I'd rather you were breathing easily. So do 2 more cycles like this. And after those 2 cycles of breath, just let go of any control of your breathing, but keep a sense of your breath, where your body is moving as you breathe. And as you exhale, could you give a little bit more of your weight to the floor? Soft across the forehead, between the eyes, cheeks, corners of the mouth, corners of the eyes. A sense of depth in your throat. And then take your attention to the edges of your body. Notice how you're changing shape as you breathe in and out, taking up different space in the room. And then see if you can have a sense of the space all around the body. So you're widening your attention, broadening your awareness. Yeah. So we're counteracting this tendency to contract by deliberately making an effort to expand our awareness, our attention, away from the particular. So today's question at Buddhafield, we like to have these themes, don't we, with Buddhafield? It's been an interesting year, which has been different for every individual, I think. Or it might just be about thinking about the last day or even this morning. So the question is, what fears have you noticed? Have you been able to turn towards them? And what did you find? So I'll repeat that. What fears have you noticed? Have you been able to turn towards them? And what did you find? So I will just leave that there with you for the next few minutes. You could put it to one side and not pay any attention to it and carry on relaxing, or you could just see how that settles with you. So you're in your own space, you can carry on resting for as long as you like. I'll end the teaching and the recording there. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. If you are, just carrying on lying down. Wish you a gorgeous Friday. Hope you get to enjoy some delights on offer at Buddhafield in the web. So if you want to say goodbye, you'll need to